Boredom in my eyes is just one of the many catalysts for man to accomplish great things. Throughout history, men of varying levels of boredom have left their mark on the world, and here's mine. Welcome to Coffee Concoctions, where one especially bored Lewish puts coffee into different recipes and shows you the results. And together we can make our own caffeinated mark on history. Hello everyone, to those who don't know me, my name is Lewish, coffee sommelier and expert bored person. Today I was bored, so instead of doing absolutely nothing, I decided to do absolutely something and make my own show about coffee. In this show we will be taking regular recipes and incorporate coffee into them. And in this episode we're starting with pancakes. If you don't know what a pancake is, I'm not going to explain it to you, but I'll show you how to make one. First, you'll need a bowl this size, some flour, a sifter if you really care about your pancakes, some sugar that takes forever to pull off screen, baking powder you had to ask like 4 neighbors for before getting it, and some salt. First things first, you gotta scoop 1.5 cups of your flour into the sifter just like me, or not just like me, because I reached the epiphany eventually that this was a 2-hand job and doing these acrobatics just to get flour into a sifter wasn't gonna cut it. Also, don't quote-unquote level the flour like me, because that's definitely not how you're supposed to level flour, but whatever. After a long, tedious battle, we eventually get the flour into the sifter, and it's time for the next ingredient, the sugar. Before I do that though, I get to flex a bit of my sifting prowess because there isn't enough room in the sifter for the rest of the dry ingredients, but now comes the sugar. You only want to put about a tablespoon of sugar in your sifter, and next up is the most elusive substance on the planet, about 3.5 teaspoons of your elusive substance, also known as baking powder. After a painfully uncomfortable measuring process that you all had to watch, I now put in my teaspoon of Himalayan pink salt because I don't have regular salt. With the change of music comes our next phase in our recipe where we sift our ingredients and make it look really cool, when in reality I'm just hitting the sifter with my fist. You want to hit that sifter until you show it who's boss, and then when there's only little particles and shit at the bottom, you could just toss it in the garbage. Yeah, just like that. So now it's for the next phase. You want to make sort of like a well in your dry ingredients. Make it sort of like volcano shape because it's about to become the Mount Vesuvius of coffee goodness. And slap, 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 it's coffee time. Now, I was out of fancy coffee grinds and I wasn't bored enough to go to the store to buy more of it. So here we are, some nice donut shop coffee blend, straight from the Keurig cup machine. Not bad, but I'd use Kona, or if you're running on low budget, just like me, hazelnut. And you just want to pour that right in there, about 1 1/4 cups worth. Next up is your butter that you totally didn't forget to melt in the microwave. So now I'm totally not leaving the screen to go and do that. Next up, you want to crack 1 egg into your eruption. You can use one hand like me if you're confident you won't get eggshell in it or aren't afraid of a little extra calcium. Now you can take your 3 tablespoons of melted butter out of the microwave and pour it in like a T-Rex because you remembered how capable of burning your beautiful hands ceramics and butter can physically get in a microwave. Next up, you just want to mix all the ingredients together until they're smooth. Don't overmix or you'll end up with flapjacks, and I don't think anybody wants that unless you're from Maine. And I sped up this portion because no matter how erotic me stirring a bowl of pancake batter is, I want to get to the money shot and show how mixed it should be. Now we butter up our skillet and wait for this bad boy to get to proper temperature. About medium-high heat is ideal, and we want to butter everywhere, even though it's only going to affect like the first couple pancakes realistically. Crumple our remaining measly tablespoon of butter and get a plate because we need a place to put our little discs of heaven when they're done with their sunbathing. It honestly felt like forever without the time skips I put in for all of your sakes, but it's finally pancake time. The recipe I used originally suggested to use 1/4 cup for each pancake, but I wasn't raised a wuss, so I used 3/4 cup. The recipe also suggested to use milk, and I replaced that garbage with coffee, so try that on for size, whoever's grandma came up with this recipe. Now here's some general pancake tips from Lewish to you-ish. When your pancake is nice and bubbly, you can flippity-floppity-flew that thing right over onto the uncooked side, because that's when you know one side is done. Second tip, your first pancake is a test pancake. Don't be discouraged if it comes out looking like the last season of Game of Thrones. Your pancakes will get better as you go along. Third tip, as soon as you can get your trusty spatula underneath the pancake, please do it. Don't flip it, but make sure that guy does not stick to the skillet. Fourth, do not rush your pancakes. They need time to develop and perfectify themselves on the skillet. Let them sit. And final tip, have a second tiny spatula ready just in case one pancake is being extra pesky to flip over. Double team that little guy with dual spatch action. Yeah, see me grab that tiny spatch right there? That's me taking my own advice for once. Ease your spatula beneath your large pancake like a gentle earthquake knocking around an entire city, and render your tiny spatula useless because you flipped that thing single-handedly. And because I'm stupid, I forgot my final tip. When you flip your pancake over and it splatters like Humpty Dumpty on the skillet, quickly scrape the stuff outside the circle into the actual pancake. That way it cooks with the rest of that side. Calculate the best angle of approach to flip this monstrously sized pancake while you realize maybe why the recipe recommended 1/4 of a cup of batter per pancake. Pick up and then proceed to lose the tiny piece of cooked pancake batter underneath your skillet. Then plate up your first successful pancake. So, as far as I could tell at this point, the replacement in the recipe didn't screw everything up. I asked 2 different friends what they thought would happen prior to actually making this video. One said it wouldn't work, and the other said my kitchen would get lit on fire, and I'm happy to say that after making like 10 pancakes, neither of those things happened. And here I sped it up because it's basically the pancake making process verbatim over and over. And once you get into that pancake making groove, it's like riding a scooter. You have the inherent knowledge of how to coded inside you as a human being. One definite noticeable difference between this improvised recipe and regular pancakes I saw as I was actually cooking them was that the batter was a lot darker than regular batter due to using coffee instead of milk. So you're really not going to be able to tell right away what the equivalent to a golden brown would be on these suckers. However, I do prefer lighter cooked pancakes. Call me a degenerate with inferior pancake taste all you want. This is the hill I choose to die on. Lighter cooked pancakes are better. Here's an example of where you do as I say and not as I do, and I say don't leave the skillet to let people into your house. Watch and do not mimic as I Olympic sprint to get the door for my guests who didn't tell me they'd be coming until they were on their way. With visitor now in house, I had to finish up my recipe as soon as possible to avoid ignoring them. On the bright side, it's only the first episode and we already have a special guest who's technically allergic to the food I made. Maybe if I ever make cheesecake, I can invite someone with a dairy allergy as a guest so they can watch me eat that in front of them too. With everything said and done though, these pancakes did look really good, and now I can do my first taste test awkwardly as my guest stands right next to me. So on a first bite with my guest bumping me, these pancakes were seriously really good. It had pretty much all the taste of the coffee I used with the consistency and fluffy goodness of pancakes. So good that I forget that my guest has a gluten allergy and offer her some like she's gonna accept it or something. No pancake is complete without some good old maple syrup though, so grabbing the gingerbread man's groin, I pour out some through the top of his glass head. Surprise, surprise, pancakes with maple syrup are really good. Just like how the sky is blue? Crazy concept, and these coffee pancakes are absolutely no exception. In conclusion, are these pancakes good? Yeah, they're really damn good. If I had to put them on a number scale, I'd say a solid 9 out of 10 for pancakes. Would I recommend making them? Yeah, they're super easy to make, and you'll probably have all the ingredients in your house. Unless you're me, in which case you won't have baking powder. Since this is the first episode, I can answer other questions too. Will I be making more episodes? Yes, whenever I'm bored. How often am I bored? A lot. Do I take suggestions? Yeah, leave them down in the comments. And with that, I will see you all later. Arriva deuces.